welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com.
What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined every Friday by my main man, Derrick Bell. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Today, the NFL schedule is finally here, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, well, for starters, for the first time in 9 years, will open the season on the North Shore at Acrisure Stadium. The last time they did that, Antonio Brown had probably the most epic punt return in the history of the NFL. But besides that, the Steelers, they walk in with a pretty back and forth schedule. A couple of trips out west, a couple of trips down south. Overall, in my opinion, not really a terrible schedule. We'll go through all of it on top of some very interesting cornerback news that has come of late with the Steelers. But it's actually been a beautiful week here in the Berg. I snuck out, golfed once or twice before rookie minicamp. That's where I'm headed after this one. It's going to be a good day. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Yeah, you mentioned the Steelers starting at home for the first time in 9 years. It's crazy, man. I was there in 2014 for the Steelers home opener against the Browns. Yeah, that was a fun game to be at for sure.
How was the kick in real life? Did anybody even realize what was going on?
I did not. I was there with my now wife, but yeah, I remember she like looked at me after it happened. She was like, "Did he just kick that guy in the face?" And I was like, "I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Like, I do think he just kicked him in the face." It was wild, man. Yeah, freaking dude, they came out. That was that they were always such a slow starting team. I feel like, especially like during that era, but they came out just like guns a-blazing, man. Like, I think they were up like 28-0 or something like that at halftime. And then the Browns ended up coming back, and like Ben had to lead like a late, like fourth quarter drive to kick a field goal, I think, to win the game. Like, they almost lost.
Wow.
It was actually a pretty wild game. It's wild to think about that. Cause I mean, I think I was like 19 or 20. And then, we still haven't had a home opener since then. It's just crazy.
Dude, wild. I thought about that because I didn't realize it was 9 years. I knew it was a long time, but like you don't even as like last year, like the headline was 8 years and then it fades and you totally forget about it. But you're like, oh yeah, AB kicking that guy in the face. I remember that perfectly. And then you're like, wow, dude, I was in college. Like I wasn't even 20 years old. Like I was probably watching that on my parents' couch. Like, yeah, absolutely wild. So it's gonna be it'll be an exciting one. I don't know if I'm super thrilled about San Francisco, and I guess that's where we'll start here. Is you bring in the first quarterback taken in the 2022 draft. He'll host possibly the last quarterback taken in the 2022 draft, the only quarterback in that draft class to win a playoff game or take his team to the playoffs as a starter if Brock Purdy starts, which I think right now the interpretation is that he will start, at least out in San Francisco, as long as he's healthy. But Kyle Shanahan has said Sam Darnold and Trey Lance are both franchise quarterback capable. I mean,
everybody's a franchise quarterback.
Yeah. In San Francisco, I could be a franchise quarterback, so that's not really, saying a whole ton. But either way, I mean, San Francisco is an NFC championship team, very talented, huge defense. Nick Bosa, obviously the reigning defensive player of the year. Not as easy as a game as I think people hoped for. I mean, do you like kicking off your schedule with possibly your toughest game, or would you have rathered Houston come to town a little bit earlier?
I don't know. I don't really mind it as much. I know a lot of people are like kind of freaking out a little bit about San Fran. I think almost it might be good.
Yeah.
San Fran started the season so slow last year, and I just look at the potential question mark at quarterback. If is Purdy going to be healthy?
Yeah.
I kind of think that he's not going to play week one. I think it would be really impressive if he was able to work his way back and start week one, especially like no off season or anything like that. So then you're talking about getting either Lance or Darnold, whoever that is. I mean, Lance, he's coming back from a significant injury, so like there could be some potential rust there. Darnold's, this will be his first year in the system. So I think there's a potential that the San Fran offense may come out of the gate, even as talented as, I mean, they're loaded roster wise, but even as talented as they are, like they could come out of the gate slow offensively, which could, bode well for the Steelers. You get that game out of the way early rather than, when Kyle Shanahan has those boys like rolling. You think about last year, they started off slow and then they rolled off like 12 straight, like it was like 12
Yeah.
straight wins until, the playoffs came and, they literally lost because I mean, maybe they lose to the Eagles anyway, but they literally lost because they didn't have a quarterback. I mean, they couldn't protect the one that they that they had in there, and they just didn't have a body back there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm okay with getting it out of the way early.
Yeah, I think I am too. Like, even if it is a loss, which I'm not going to look at it as, like, I'm going to look at it the same way. I like the optimism of maybe they'll start slow, but either way, I think the Steelers are going to be a much better team than they were a year ago. So
Mhm.
I'm not ruling them out of these games just yet. I'd like to see how they, progress through the summer and show up in the preseason, so on and so forth. But either way, like, worst case scenario, this thing is the Steelers' hardest game. Getting it over in week 1 is totally fine with me. Like, you show up, everybody's bumping, everybody's having a good time. Unless you get smacked by 21 points, everybody's going to have a great day. Like, nobody's, the fans aren't going to be upset about it. The tailgates are going to be crazy. I think that's what I'm probably most excited for, is to like walk through the North Shore on week 1, because the North Shore hasn't experienced, a
Been a
week 1
long
opener
time.
a long time. Like, a long time. People are going to be losing their minds out there. It's going to be a good time. Yeah, but I agree. I think that there's an opportunity that Brock Purdy doesn't play, which I kind of hope that he does. I kind of want to see the Kenny versus Brock Purdy, matchup for the first time at Acrisure Stadium, which would be dope. But if they start slow and you go 1-0, I mean, that's a huge boost, especially against a team like San Francisco. You got to feel good about that one. We'll pull up the whole schedule here. Cleveland, week 2, Monday Night Football. Got to feel real good about that one. Me and you have had the conversation that Cleveland is not a team on the rise, nor should they be looked at as a team on the rise. If anything, they should be very, very concerned about what their quarterback play has been like the last year. Then, you go out west to Vegas. First time they'll go to Vegas, then back to Houston, home to Baltimore, and then the early bye week. Let's talk about that first stretch right here before the bye. In my opinion, the easiest stretch on their schedule. You look at this, Cleveland should probably be a win. Vegas, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, I think is a good quarterback, but Josh McDaniels is not a good head coach, in my opinion. Houston's not there yet. And even if they are there at some point this season, I don't think week 4 is going to be late enough for them to be clicking. And then you go to Baltimore, get that one out of the way, which I kind of enjoy. Or home, excuse me. You're home against Baltimore, which gives you that upper hand, and then you go on the bye week. You agree? You think something differently? What's your easiest stretch here on the schedule?
No, I do agree. I think that pre-bye week stretch is definitely it's the easiest stretch in my opinion. I think they could easily start out, 3-2, 4-1, in those first 5 games. You mentioned San Francisco. I mean, that's going to be a good measuring test for the Steelers. How they're going to match up with, definitely one of the best rosters in the league. But I'm not going to get too scared of what Cleveland has to offer until I see Deshaun Watson come
No.
back and play at like a top 10 quarterback level. Until that happens, there's just no real reason for me to get like too awful worked up over that. You mentioned Vegas, bringing in Jimmy G. Vegas, man, like there's some areas of that team where I think, they're pretty solid. I really like the weapons that they got. I think Jimmy G is a good fit for what McDaniels wants to do on offense, but I don't know if you have seen Vegas's offensive line situation. Like that joint is awful. Like the
Bad.
Steelers are going to absolutely wreck shop up front. So, and Jimmy G does not deal with pressure very well. Houston, that's self-explanatory. I feel like Houston. Some people are weirdly being optimistic about Houston. I think Houston
No.
could potentially down the road, if Stroud pans out, Anderson pans out, they could be a solid team. And I don't think that they're going to be a pushover with D'Amico Ryans, but still think Houston, if you have any type of playoff aspirations for next year, that has to be a dub. And then, getting Baltimore right before the bye week, you just got to power through, man, try to steal that one. But I think 3-2, like if you're trying to make the playoffs with this schedule, you got to be 3-2 exiting those first 5 games and preferably 4-1.
Yeah, 100%. My thing with Cleveland, obviously, is they're Cleveland. I agree with you 100%. Vegas, my dad's a Broncos fan. I mention that all the time on here, but I got to experience the Josh McDaniels era in Denver, like up close and personal. Like I was told about every bad thing that happened there and how awful this guy is as a head coach. And since then, I've kind of just like developed a narrative, like, I don't know, maybe. And then he went to Vegas and last year, and I was just like, oh yeah, no, this guy stinks. Like, I got no hope for him. The same with, D'Amico Ryans. I think that he's going to be a good head coach. I hope he's a good head coach. I always root for those defensive guys. But just like you said, you need more time than 4 weeks with these guys. Nope. And, if you're banking on 2 rookies to lead your team, you're not going very far. Baltimore will be huge. You lose to Baltimore, in my opinion, you're like, it's not the end of the road, but it's going to hurt. You're going to face them in week 18. That's a must win now. And I think that if you could sneak that one out early at Acrisure Stadium, that's huge. How do you feel about the week 6 bye? And early, too early.
Yeah, man. Anytime you're getting like a week 6 bye on a 17 game season, 18 week season, it's early in my opinion. I mean, there are definitely things that you can take from it that you can try to look at it as in a positive light. That early bye week allows you to do some self-scouting on what worked the first 5 weeks, what didn't. That way you can really get prepared for the home stretch. But the concern there is, man, like how banged up are you going to be, after like week 11, week 12, and you don't have that bye week to kind of look forward to in order to, kind of hit the refresh button before a potential like playoff run or whatever. So don't like the bye being that early, but overall, I don't have any too real big qualms about like just the way that it's laid out. I think if I do have a really scheduling type gripe is the 2 Thursday night football games, dude. Like, it's awful.
Dude, you don't even
terrible.
There is zero reason that teams should play Thursday night football games. And then the fact that they were like, hey, teams could actually play more than one, and they gave them to the Steelers. I was like, you kidding me, man? Like, Thursday night football games are pointless. Nobody's ever in the history of the NFL outside of Roger Goodell and all the old dudes sitting in those meetings have been like, we should play more Thursday night football games. I'm actually a fan of Thursday night football. It's really fun to play. The science behind it is great. No, it's terrible. With the bye week, with the early bye week, my only thing about it is that you're coming off your easiest stretch of the schedule. Like you're, like you could address some things. I get that, but last year that bye week was the turning point. Like you saw what you really needed to change, and you made those changes for the most part. I don't know if you could do that after like such an easy stretch of games. Like if you somehow go 4-1 early and then you hit that bye week, I think that could actually be a negative where maybe you wanted to keep momentum rolling and now you got to take a week off and then you got to travel to the West Coast, which isn't easy. I'm not going to say the Rams are a difficult challenge, but still like not the easiest thing to do for any team on the East Coast. That's my only worry there. But again, I'm not going to, I think the second stretch after that, like the Rams, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Green Bay, Cleveland again, not like a super difficult stretch. Like you should be able to beat the Rams. You should be able to beat the Titans. You should be able to beat the Packers and the Browns. Like, I don't know. You look at this. What's your toughest sketch? What's your toughest stretch? What's the stretch you're most worried about here?
Yeah, I mean the schedule in general is just not that tough. I mean,
no,
really, I just don't think it's that difficult. That's
dude. Remember last year when we were sitting here talking about how like it was just like every one of these games could be a loss.
Yeah,
every single one of them. Like, well, this is a pretty nice
walk in the park. We did nail the prediction, man.
We did 9-8. We'll do it again. Hopefully this one's a little bit better.
Man, like I said, I don't think the schedule's that bad at all. I think the toughest part of the schedule, man, is how they finish with that Cincinnati, Seattle, Baltimore stretch. Having to go to the West Coast, go play Seattle, and then wrap it up against Baltimore on the road to close out the regular season. That's a tough one for sure. And then even that Cincinnati game, we know that's going to be a bloodbath. That's not going to be for the faint of heart either. So I think that 3-game stretch to me is really the one that kind of sticks out. I do wish they played somebody else other than the Rams after the bye week. it could potentially be good for them. I mean, with the travel and everything else, but man, I like playing like some of the better teams, like coming off bye weeks. I know some people will say like, worry about rust or whatever, but I think if you're going to have an early bye like that, I'd prefer probably to play a better team than the Rams, because I actually think the Rams are going to be really bad this year. But
yeah, me too. And on top of that, like their quarterback, you've seen their quarterback too many times. Like that's not going to be a huge challenge.
yeah,
I agree. Even if it was Jacksonville instead of LA, I'd feel better about that because I think Jacksonville is going to be a tough challenge.
Yeah, I think
this year.
Jacksonville's going to be good.
Yeah,
I mean,
so that I would have felt relatively good. I would have felt better about that. I agree. But I think that last stretch right there, I agree with you. Like 16, 17, 18 to play home at Cincy, which I don't really care. Cincy, no matter where you're going to play them, is going to be tough.
mm-hmm.
And then go to Seattle, which is awful, and then have to go to Baltimore. Like that's a rough one, especially if you're in a playoff race, which the Steelers will 100% be. There's no way that they're walking in here and they're like, at this point, I don't know, 13-1 or something. And like, everybody's like, oh, okay, well, they won the division. Here we go. Like it's going to be a bloodbath for a wild card spot or the AFC North if they could squeeze their way in there. Like those 3 games are going to be rough. And I honestly, like by the time week 15 rolls around, Indianapolis is not going to be good by no means, but Anthony Richardson will probably be in there quarterback. And at that point, like that's a challenge. I think that Anthony Richardson's going to be good. And, that's not going to be an easy game. New England, nah, whatever. Arizona, whatever. But then you go to Cincy again, like that one's going to be that's a tough one. How they finish the schedule, I think, is going to determine how you make the playoffs. But at the same time, we just talked about San Francisco and how hot they were at the end of the season. You kind of want that, like you want to be able to say, hey, look, we beat Cincinnati in the last 6 games of the season. We beat Seattle. We beat Baltimore. We beat New England. Like we beat these teams.
Cincinnati and Baltimore are probably going to be teams like that are you're going to potentially play in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So like having that confidence builder that you can hang with teams like that is definitely going to be a big thing. But I think just like generally looking at the schedule, man, like, between Houston, the LA Rams, and then the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, would it surprise anybody if those 3 teams are the worst 3 teams in football? I mean, you get all of them on the same schedule. I mean, I would be
shout out Donnie Druin.
Yeah, I mean, I would be really, really surprised if any of those 3 teams were even close to 500. I mean, I think all 3 of those teams are picking in the top 5, maybe the top 3 in order. So we'll see how it plays out, but I do like that aspect of it. And you mentioned
they could play. Oh, sorry, don't mean to interrupt you. They could play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how you feel about Cleveland. Possibly 6 top 10 teams that in the draft next year, because just like you said, LA, Houston, Arizona, Tennessee.
Yeah,
Tennessee's not
actually. Yeah, now that I think about that, Tennessee's also really bad. That they're probably
really bad.
They might be worse than Houston, to be honest.
Yeah, on paper, 100%. And then Indianapolis, like probably on the up and up, but still, how far?
They've also kind of. I mean, they've also kind of ragdolled Tennessee like the past couple. I mean, they've beat them several times in a row. Yeah, I mean, I think those 4 games, give you a pretty good base as far as teams that they absolutely 100% should beat, just based on what's on paper.
Yeah, which is again huge, because last year we sat here and talked about like, there's no guarantees, not in this one. Now you get a quarterback, you get a defense. Your team's looking a lot better. Your offensive line's looking good. It's a come up. It's definitely a come up. Let me ask you this: you've had about a little less than 12 hours now to digest this whole thing. What's the game you're most interested in? What's the one you circled that you went, oh, this one could be a good one?
Man, that's tough. I'll tell you what, I'm really interested to see, like, just some teams outside like my Steelers like viewing that I'm interested to see like play out offensively. I'm intrigued by Jacksonville. I want to see how Calvin Ridley looks off the year off or whatever.
Forgot about Calvin Ridley.
But I think Jacksonville, I mean, I thought you saw Trevor Lawrence kind of take that next step into like the guy who we thought we were going to see coming out of Clemson. And then, Seattle, man, last year, it took me by surprise, but I absolutely love watching Geno. I think like Geno's like one of the 3 to 5 best, just like pure pocket drop back passers in the league. Like that's how good he was last year. And I think Jackson Smith-Njigba perfect fit for like what they wanted to do on offense. Like they already had their vertical stretch guy, and DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett's still there. He's been one of the most like underappreciated players I feel like in the NFL over the past like decade. But Geno was a great deep ball thrower, especially last year. But they didn't really have that guy to work like the intermediate area, the middle of the field, underneath stuff like that, and like JSN, like that's what he does best. So I think, with those 2 tackles they had last year, going into year 2 with a full year of experience, Geno on getting a good contract. I'm very intrigued by what Seattle is doing on offense. So I would say those 2 for me are just kind of the teams I'm like kind of circling on matchups that I'm excited to see the Steelers play.
Yeah. Seattle will be a good one. I am excited to see Geno Smith, possibly the rest of that team, depending on who's healthy. I'm actually very excited to see Kenneth Walker. Like Kenneth Walker, been a big fan of his. Seattle's a good one. Vegas is the one that, for personal reasons, I got circled immediately. It was the first flights I looked up because, you go to Vegas.
Not gonna miss that.
Yeah. Like one of my opportunity to go to Vegas and work. I'm going to Vegas. Vegas, I think, will be a good one because I think Jimmy G's a good quarterback. But just like I said, I don't think Josh McDaniels is a good head coach. So I'm very interested to see how that tandem plays out. The other one I am interested to see Anthony Richardson, and the fact that it'll be week 15. I think he'll get rolling a little bit by then. So like you'll be able to see that. But Jacksonville, just like you said, that's my big one. That's definitely my biggest one. Like I'm very excited to see Trevor Lawrence and his progression, but I'm also excited to see how the Steelers match up because I think that's a very undervalued, opponent in the next 10 years of the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. Like Trevor Lawrence, if he stays there and that team turns into what it should, because, you have a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, you should be able to consistently stay good.
Yeah.
That'll be a big one. And then obviously you'll have your Cincinnatis and your Kansas Cities, but if Jacksonville and Pittsburgh are like the next ones to enter that realm of competing for the AFC, you got to see how you match up with them early. So that's definitely a big one for me.
And you mentioned Indianapolis, man. Like I've been doing a lot of work on, not to spoil anything, but been doing a lot of work on Steichen. So that's definitely a guy that I'm excited to see. I thought that Richardson landed in like the best possible place for him. With Steichen having, his background, what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts last year. Some of the ways that they were able to use him, not just his legs, but his arm, and put him in advantageous situations. I'm very intrigued by what he can do with Richardson. I mean, literally the most athletic quarterback we've ever seen test. Rocket arm. Really excited to see like if they can get him close to his potential. Obviously that wouldn't be great for Steelers being in the AFC, but at the same time, like I kind of just want to see that because I think it could be like some serious fireworks.
Yeah. It's really hard sometimes to just be like, man, I hope this team isn't
good. There's a fun factor.
Yeah. You're just like, it would be really cool football. Like, and sometimes football is just cooler than anything else. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's do it. Let's get into it. The predictions. Last year, we got 9-8 early. Super. This day, actually, 1 year ago today. I don't know when the schedule was released last year, but 1 year ago on the schedule release date, we hit 9-8 on the head. Didn't even know Kenny Pickett was going to be the starting quarterback in the middle of the season. Didn't realize any of it was going to happen. But, we're just good. When you're good, you're good. So let's see if we can do it again. Week 1, San Francisco 49ers come to town. North Shore is going to be bumping. I might have to show up at least 2 hours early just to eat some hot dogs and some hamburgers and hang out with everybody. It's going to be a gorgeous day. Don't know who the quarterback is for San Francisco yet, but you'd have to imagine that all three of them, Kyle Shanahan could turn them into anything. So win, lose, how does Steelers start this one off?
Man. I'm gonna say they lose the opener.
Oh, lose the opener. I agree. I think that San Francisco is a tough one to just say, here's a dub week 1. Like San Francisco was in my opinion, the best team in football until the Super Bowl last year, Brock Purdy included. So, I mean, it's tough to say that one. All right. Week 2, Cleveland, Monday Night Football. Dub. I'm talking blowout win. Not even going to be close. I just, this, in my opinion, the first thing I thought when I saw this, and maybe this is a little biased, I get it. this is the beginning of the end of the Deshaun Watson. Like, that's how I view this, is that week 2, you get smoked by Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. The panic buttons are going off. That's how I viewed that one. Week 3, out west, Vegas. First time the Steelers have ever played at Allegiant Stadium. What you feeling here?
I'm saying that's a dub.
That's a dub.
Like I said, I just worry about Vegas up in the trenches, man. Like I think the Steelers are gonna be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, primetime football as well. I think that's just like a Mike Tomlin thing. Always gets the juices flowing. The Steelers should hopefully be healthy at that point. I agree. I don't think Vegas has got enough firepower yet. I think they're trying to just patch some holes, and it's not really going to work out against some of these good young teams. So I agree. 2-1 heading into week 4. Houston. I think this is an easy one, even if you're on the road. D'Amico Ryans, you going dub?
Dub.
Yeah, easy one. 3-1 heading back home. Host Baltimore for the first time before the bye week. Lamar Jackson, money man Lamar. OBJ. Forgot about OBJ for a second there. New defense. What you thinking?
I'm saying they lose this one.
Oh, okay. Then they'd have to win week 18. I'm splitting the Baltimore games. I'll agree with you. I'll say we lose this one. Steelers lose week 5, head into the bye with a little chip on their shoulder. They come back. They go out west to the Rams. I mean, I'll explain to you, where I'm going, why I think this one's a win. Because when Jillian asked me yesterday, she goes, "Oh, you going out to LA?" And I said, "No, there's no point in going to LA." So that's a win for me. That's a win. What you thinking?
I'm trying to calculate how many losses and stuff I see on the schedule real quick. LA is a win. 100%. I think LA's roster is really bad. I challenge everyone listening to the pod today. In the comments, try to name Los Angeles Rams defenders that are not named Aaron Donald. If you can name more than 3 guys on their starting lineup, you need to create a podcast, because I do not think that 95% of podcast hosts could do that.
Dude, I don't think I can name one of them.
It's a bad roster.
Who would it even be? Leonard Floyd gone.
It's a bad
Ramsey
roster.
Gone. Taylor Rapp gone.
I really just want to read off the names now.
I would like you to at least give me one. I can't go the rest of this podcast.
Even the offense, isn't great.
Baker Mayfield, Cooper Kupp. That's
the starters on offense are a little bit more well known, but Marquise Copeland, Bobby Brown, Aaron Donald, Byron Young, who's a rookie, Ernest Jones, Christian Roseboom. I don't.
Who is that guy? Did you ever see the Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce name the head coaches? Who is that? That's what I feel about that guy.
Nick Hampton, Darian Kendrick. Darian Kendrick ran a 4.75 or something like that, 40-yard dash coming out. Jordan Fuller, who I like. Russ Yeast, another player that's not a real player. Robert Rochelle, another guy that I liked coming out, a small school guy. Sleeper in the draft. Kobe Durant, another guy that I liked coming out, but these guys are late round draft picks, guys that probably don't need to be starting
a year ago, late round draft picks.
Yikes.
I didn't realize that was that bad. I thought Baker Mayfield was walking.
They drafted a billion players because they had a ton of day 3 picks. So who knows? Some of these day 3 picks could come in and start right away. But man, like I said, man, if you're an average viewer and you can name 10 of those guys or 4 of those guys,
2.
I'll be very, very impressed.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Next game, Jacksonville. I'm saying home. Loss.
You're going loss to Jacksonville in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say this is a big one. I'm gonna say the Steelers win this one. I'm gonna split the difference here. I'm gonna say that's a win. Just because I think this is a defining one. If they're going to lose Baltimore, you can't lose to Jacksonville. You know what's on the line there. I just feel like Tomlin's going to get people hyped up. And it's at home. I don't know. Feeling good about that one. Tennessee, I don't even know. You want to name 5 people on the Rams, go ahead and name anybody on Tennessee that's not a quarterback or a running back. You just can't do it. I couldn't name one player on their defense.
Yeah.
at home, week 9. What you thinking? This is the Thursday night game, right? This is the first Thursday night game.
That's a dub.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Especially Thursday night. Like, you're gonna send Kenny Pickett and Mike Tomlin into prime time against Tennessee, like, who might not even have a quarterback by then. Like, yeah, rough one. While we're there, actually, a little sidetrack real quick. Malik Willis possibly on the way out of Tennessee. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you making that phone call and saying, "Hey, bud, come on, you'll be our number 3."
Hey, I mean, at this point, why not? I'm a little bit bummed for Malik, man. That situation that he got thrown into last year is just, atrocious. Quarterback landing spots in general are just so crucial.
Yeah, so that was the worst situation in football. Like, man, possibly.
Yeah,
because the expectations were high and the team was so low.
Well, speaking of bad offensive lines that the Steelers should absolutely manhandle, Tennessee's.
I was going to say, name one guy. Couldn't even. Last year was the injured left tackle. This year it's nobody. You don't know anybody.
That could be a potential just like bloodbath. So
yeah,
definitely think the Titans are. That's a dub for me.
That's a dub. All right, so right now you're sitting 5-3. I'm sitting 6-2. Green Bay at home. Jordan Love era. Welcome to Pittsburgh. How you feeling?
Oh man, that one's tough. Is this at home or away?
This is home in Pittsburgh. 1:00. Cheeseheads are in town. Jordan Love 0-1 as a starter. In case that one game means anything to you.
I'm gonna say they lose to Green Bay.
They lose to Green. You got them losing to Baltimore, Jacksonville, and Green Bay. Derrick is a little critical at these games here. All right, being a little bit. Sometimes that's more realistic, I guess. I don't think Green Bay is very good or has much. Like I get the Aaron Rodgers decline. I really do. I don't like until I see Jordan Love play.
That's the only reason I'm saying is like Green Bay probably wasn't. I mean, Green Bay was probably they were a pretty similar team to the Steelers last year. Pittsburgh's finished stronger. I don't think Rodgers is very good last year, and I don't think it's going to be that difficult for Love to be at least that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Yeah, I'm going out on a limb there. I'm gonna say they lose that one.
Alrighty. Oh, that's tough. I don't want to see them lose to Green Bay, but I feel like at some point you got to toss one out there. So, all right. I like that. I'll go with the loss on this one too. Not feeling great about that one, but I agree. Like if I'm going to give him Baltimore or if I'm going to give him Jacksonville, like I can't give them both. At some point you're going to lose a game that's going to be close. Week 11, you head out to the dog pound, Cleveland, who hopefully at that point has a new logo. Did you see their new logos? Did you see the ridiculous? Let's change it to a bulldog, which just so everybody knows, if you've gone and hung out with a bulldog for 10 seconds, is the least scary animal on the planet. It is a big, giant pillow. But awful. Week 11 in Cleveland. What you feeling?
Dub, sweep of the Browns.
Sweep of the Browns. Yeah, easy. No questions asked. Cleveland, the fact that I saw Caesar Sportsbook put out the odds the other day about the Steelers or like the AFC North who could win, and the gap between the Browns had like plus 310, the Steelers were at like plus 550. Like just disrespectful. The Browns talk is getting ridiculous. Like there's nothing behind it to back it up whatsoever. All right, week 12, Cincinnati. The first game against Cincy this season.
No, I'm gonna say they lose that one.
Oh, okay. Coming out strong. Yeah, I think that's a loss too. Loss on the road in Cincinnati. I think it'll be close, but I think Cincy's going to be just so good this season. Just got very high expectations. Back home, Arizona. Donnie Droon will be sleeping right in the guest room downstairs. We might have to pull him up, get him on a pod that morning. What you thinking here?
I'm gonna say that's a blowout win for the Steelers.
Yeah.
At home, nonetheless.
Not even going to be, finger guns. Gannon is gonna try his hardest, but no, Arizona's just not a very good football team, and just doesn't have much going for him. Will be nice to see James Conner come back home. Be cool to see that one. Maybe a slept on story, but no, not a win. All right, week 14, New England. This is the second Thursday night football game. This one's at home as well.
I'm gonna say they get a dub here too.
A dub against New England.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that one. I'm gonna say Thursday night football again, prime time. New England's not that great. Don't know who's going to be the quarterback this season. Just the magic there is a little gone. All right, week 15, you go out to Indy. You start this last final stretch here. Anthony Richardson, I'm going to assume, is on the field at this point, unless Gardner Minshew is just going off.
Yeah, they've played. I feel like they've played pretty well against the Colts too. I feel like they played better against the Colts than like any team in the NFL, other than maybe like Cleveland in the past like decade. So I'm gonna say they get a dub there.
I agree.
What day is that? To be determined.
Both the date and time is to be determined. So
what's that all about?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Maybe this is the beginning of the Saturday games.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that works out to where I can go to that one because.
Because you're right there. So yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I know, because when we're in Cincinnati, when the Steelers are in Cincinnati, I'm actually staying in Kentucky. I'm pretty sure, right on the other side of the line there. Indianapolis, I'm going dub as well. I just, and Indy's got time. They got a lot of development left, and if Benny Snell Jr. could win for you last year, I don't think it's going to be that tough to win this year. Then you come back home, Cincinnati, a second time. We got them both losing the first time on the road. Do they split that series or no?
Yeah, I think they split it this year. I'm gonna try to be optimistic. I'll say they win that second one.
I agree. You got to split them. It's just how these things work. Seattle, week 17. You're on the road. You're out west. This is the most intriguing game on the schedule to you. What you think?
Don't like this one at all. Traveling out west, I just don't like it.
No, me neither. So you got a loss on
late
that
in
one.
the season in between two divisional opponents. I don't know. That one screams bad time for me.
Yeah. Rough to week 17. Everybody's going to be fighting for the playoffs at that point, Seattle included. Yeah, I don't know. The 12s, it's just nope. Tough game against Cincinnati the week before. Just nope. Thinking a loss. So, all right, heading into week 18. You have the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting at 10-6. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting at 11-5. Baltimore, week 18, on the road. Lose to them at home in week 5. What you thinking?
Dub.
The Pittsburgh Steelers finish
11-6.
11-6. I got them at 12-5. That's pretty good. It's pretty darn good. Then the 8.5 over under that they were put into. I feel pretty good about it. I'm not feeling upset about the about a 12-11 win season. That get them into the playoffs with ease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll get in 11-6.
Yeah, I agree. Feeling real good about that one, actually. All right, last thing I want to talk about real quick before we got to head out of here is the cornerback. We talked about the slot, the whole thing, plenty of times on this podcast. Recently, as recent as yesterday, actually, Omar Khan goes on 93.7 The Fan, talks about the release of Arthur Millette, which has reportedly been his own doing. The craziest part, remember when we talked about this months ago and I was like, oh, Arthur Millette's not going to be on the team. That's because he told me on locker cleanout day that he wasn't playing for the Steelers next year. And I was like, and then he was just like on the roster still. And I was like, oh, well, I must have misinterpreted something. Like something was wrong here. And then this happened. I was like, I thought that's what I thought happened there. So Arthur Millette's gone. Omar Khan names Chandon Sullivan, newly signed Chandon Sullivan, former Minnesota Viking, and Duke Dawson, former second-round pick in 2018, who spent last season on the practice squad, never really panned out in the NFL so far, as the potential replacements at the slot. They feel pretty good about both of them. I mean, I don't know, you tell me your thoughts when he named those names as the potential replacement.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just Khan not trying to like show his cards or, maybe it's just hopium, I guess. I can tell you right now, I don't feel great about those two options. So that's my take on it. Chandon Sullivan, I think he's a guy that, the Steelers should be trying to upgrade at slot corner, man. Maybe it's a maybe it's a veteran move, a trade, a release, come training camp. But this is not going to work. With what they got on the roster right now, I think it's their biggest hole on defense. I think it's a serious void that other teams are going to be looking to exploit. It's not good news. It's bad news Bears.
Yeah, bad news Bears is spot on. You remember the Antoine Brooks year? Like, that's what it reminds me of right now. It's just like anybody that we could find that like is remotely athletic, we're just going to toss them in there. Sullivan, everybody's making a big deal out of Sullivan. I was telling you before the show, I just got into PFF grades a little bit, and like, their analysis here and there. And Arthur Millette's coverage grade last year was a 55, which is not good. Chandon Sullivan's coverage grade last year was a 53. So if you're off on Arthur Millette, maybe you should be a little skeptical about Chandon Sullivan. I'm not high on Sullivan. I think
I think the Steelers probably option in the slot is probably not on the roster.
Okay, I was going to say Patrick Peterson. Do you think it's Patrick Peterson? Maybe
it could be Peterson, but I think it's not on the roster. That's how I'm going to operate until it doesn't happen that way, and then I'm going to try to cope elsewhere.
I like that. I think that it's I think they're going to try a couple of things. Corey Trice is a name that gets tossed out there, big physical guy in the slot. Possibly Trey Norwood, toss his name out there. I don't think that's a realistic option for them. But Chandon Sullivan, Duke Dawson's about as bad as it gets when it comes to, and I mean, like, that's a downgrade at that point. Just, you should have just kept Arthur Millette, paid him a little bit more money. You got money to toss around out there. I will say this, and I know we only got a minute or two here. I think that if it does end up the way that it works out right now, my thought is that if the Steelers aren't able to grab anybody, they give the job to whoever to start, and then Patrick Peterson bounces inside. And I think that locks up Joey Porter, Levi Wallace, Ahkello Witherspoon as the big three on the outside. And I feel damn good about that.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of depth on the outside. It's just going to be a matter of like how they're going to circumvent, the slot, and how they're going to mix and match depending on, personnel, who they're playing, matchups, stuff like that. I'm just going to continue to hammer home. They need to be active and trying to pursue an upgrade in the slot, or the other teams are going to do what the Bengals did to them last year. So
yeah. So you can't walk into there, Chandon Sullivan, Duke Dawson. Just that's the gaping hole has somehow gotten more gaping, and that's just more concerning for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But like you said, a rookie minicamp starts today, OTA starts 2 weeks from now, and then we're back to football. So moves will be made, guys will get cut, people will become available. There's a lot of talking points that are going to come in the next couple of weeks. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts, and check out all of mine and Derrick's work at allsteelers.com. I will be back on Monday with Steven. Enjoy rookie minicamp weekend here in the Berg. Peace.